Hi, my name is Mike from Radiant Photography, and today I'm going to be talking about a trip we took to New York City before the coronavirus blew up. But I took my photography gear with me, and I want to just tell you a little bit about where we went, the different photography spots that I chose while we were there, and show you some of the pictures that I captured. First, let's start with the gear that I took on the trip. I traveled pretty light this time because when I'm traveling, I don't like carrying around a lot of gear with me. And so I took my Canon 5D Mark IV. Now, what I like about that camera is, one, it's full frame, but the second thing I really like about it as a travel camera is that it has a built-in GPS, and so you can geotag all your photos. And for me, I just really like being able to record where all of my photos were taken so that I can return on future trips. The lenses that there were two lenses. The first is this one here. This is a 24-105. It's the Mark I version of this lens. And I love this lens because it's lightweight, it has image stabilization, and it has a pretty normal zoom range for 24-105. And so some may ask me, like, well, why didn't you take, I also have the 24-70 f2.8. And the reason I didn't take this one with me is because it's a lot heavier. And so it's quite a bit heavier with this one, and it's even a bigger size. But the size doesn't really make that much of a difference when you're putting it in a bag. But when you're carrying it around all day, this one's just so much better. That's also why I haven't upgraded this lens to the Mark II version. The Mark II version of this lens is a bigger lens, and it's the same weight as the 24-70 f2.8. And to me, I'd rather have the lighter lens. Now, is this lens perfect? No, it has quite a bit of zoom creep, which I use this lens band to kind of hold there over the zoom ring, and that fixes it for the most part. But this lens has just been a workhorse for me for past, I don't know, 8 years or so. And I love it. I won't go anywhere without it. So the other lens I took with me is on the camera right now. It's the 16-35 f4 LIS. And I really like that version of the lens, again, because it's lightweight. It's even lighter than the 24-105. And having an ultra wide when you're visiting any kind of city to take cityscapes, really, it's a very good zoom range to be at. And so I took that lens as well. The other thing I took with, as I carried it in this Domkey camera bag, and I really like this bag because, one, it's black, it's very discreet, it's just a canvas bag, and it fits just the right amount of gear. I can have my camera on one side with the lens attached and the second lens on the other side. And oftentimes I'll even have room, like if it gets warmer throughout the day and I start the day with a jacket, if I take the camera out and just use the camera strap, I can stuff my jacket in here. And so it's just a really convenient bag, and it really it treats me well. I started with one of those actually, and years after using it on several trips, it started wearing out. The canvas started showing some wear, and the Velcro was starting to peel away from the bag, or the stitching was ripping from the bag, and I love the bag so much I just went out and bought another one just because it's that good of a bag. What's nice, another thing that's nice about that is that it actually fits really well if you're traveling with a backpack. I have a separate backpack that I usually travel with on plane trips, and this will slide right into that backpack, and so when I arrive I can just use this as a day bag and leave the backpack in the hotel room. So that's another reason I really like this bag. It's a really good size for that. It does not fit a grip camera body, but when you're traveling, I don't want to be carrying the extra weight of a camera grip. Try to go as light as you can. I mean, why would you ruin your day by just killing your back by carrying all this extra weight? So now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the photos I captured while we were there. This one here is an arc that was in, I believe it's Williamston Park or something along those lines. I'll link in the description below. But it's just kind of a classic place, and it really, because like a lot of movies were filmed, have filmed here and so forth, and I just kind of want to capture it. We were just going around dusk, and so the light was just barely still hitting it. And so it's not the best photo, but I still like it just because it shows something it's a very popular place to be. I would recommend that if you're actually going to go photograph this place, go in the morning before it gets too crowded and stuff. So because there were quite a few people in this park. This one here is from the Oculus, and I spent about an hour photographing the Oculus when I was there. If you go in the morning, then the sun will be going hitting through the windows and the ceiling of the Oculus. And what I did here was I stood right about at the edge of where the sun was coming in through the windows and hitting the ground, and so you get this nice starburst effect of the sun coming through right here in the middle. And then I just waited until the people go through. Now this is, for being such a beautiful building, it's simply a shopping mall. And it kind of serves two purposes. One, it's the shopping mall, and then the other is that it's kind of a transit hub. There's train stations and metro stations or through different doors of the Oculus, and so people walk through the Oculus when they're going from one train system to another. But this I took it there because then I was just kind of waiting for the right moment. I had this image in my head of the guy or just somebody walking in the sunlight and getting their shadow. The one thing I don't like about this photo is this guy here that was working one of these booths, and he would not move he was there for like 20 minutes doing inventory or something. And finally it got to the point where I just needed to move on. But this was the best shot I got of this instance. Now, next picture I have here is of the Brooklyn Bridge. The Brooklyn Bridge is kind of one of these classic bridges that it's not like a modern bridge. It was built a long time ago, before they had kind of these metal suspension bridges, and it's built out of stone, and that's why I love it. It just kind of has this real classic, hard, gritty look to it. And so you can walk across it, which it was great. It's very crowded, so try to pick a time that's not, that wouldn't be as crowded to go and do it if you want. But again, dawn and dusk are good times because you can get better lighting. This photo here was taken from the middle of the bridge, and I liked it because it showed all the parts of the bridge that I love, with the stonework and so forth, and it just has a lot of texture in the middle here. And it was just, I just really liked how this came out. I haven't printed this one yet, but I'm planning to, because it's kind of, I really like how it turned out in the end. Now, going across the bridge, across the Brooklyn Bridge, you end up in this neighborhood. It's the Dumbo neighborhood, and from here you actually have a really cool view. If you come to the street right at the right time, you can see that you have a picture of the Manhattan Bridge, and then if you can fit right in the middle here, you can see the Empire State Building in the background. And so that's really cool. The problem is you need to be there at a time that, any time that the light is good, is going to be a time where there's going to be a million other people there as well. And so that was a struggle. I mean, we were there for, I don't know, a good half hour, just trying to get a period of time when there wasn't any cars going down the street or people that were taking that photo, and it just didn't happen. And so honestly, if I was going to go back again, I would probably go a little bit later, maybe during like just around dusk, or maybe early on in blue hour. Because the other problem is that you have a really good, really high contrast from the lit areas and the dark areas and the buildings in the foreground. And The 5D Mark IV does do a decent job at dynamic range. I was able to boost those a little bit. I didn't want to boost them too much on this image though, because there's just so many people in the shadows and they became distracting. But if you go during that time, then you don't have, your camera's not going to struggle with the dynamic range as much. And plus you'll get some of the bridge lights on and maybe some of the city lights on in the background, and that would be a kind of a nice image to capture. Now this was walking, we had dinner over there and we were walking back, and we were walking back on the Manhattan Bridge. I would not recommend walking back on the Manhattan Bridge, simply because the sidewalk goes right even with the metro rail. And the trains, whenever there's a train going across this bridge, it is so incredibly loud. But the nice thing about walking on this bridge is that you have just a beautiful unobstructed view of Manhattan with the Brooklyn Bridge in the foreground. This image here, I actually did some post-processing on it. The Brooklyn Bridge isn't really well lit, and so I actually had to increase the exposure of the pillars here and here. I did that a little bit just to give it a little bit more light in the foreground. And again, this was happening right at dusk, and so you can see the sky had a nice light to it. I didn't have my tripod with me. If I would have had that, then I would have dragged the exposure a little bit to make the water come out softer. But overall, I was really happy with this image, and I ended up printing it out just because I liked it so much. Now this image here was captured from the Staten Island Ferry. Staten Island Ferry is a really great way to see both the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, and also catch views like this of Manhattan. It's free to take the ferry, so all you have to do is go to the ferry terminal and hop on, and right away, like there's no charge if you're going out to Ellis Island or to the Statue of Liberty. You can take ferries that go to those places, but I think they start at like $25. And that doesn't even include being able to get off if you have to pay more in order to reserve a spot to actually get off the ferries and go see those monuments. So we didn't do that this time. And another reason too is if you're going to go do those things, make sure you book in advance because they do fill up. So, but this one here, so we took the Staten Island Ferry, and really it's a really cool way to do it because it's maybe, I don't know, they run every half hour or so. It takes about a half hour, so you can take it over, you have to get off the boat, and then you can get right back on to take it to come back into the city. Give it 2 hours to go there and back. But while you can go out on the back of the boat, you can go either the upper level or the lower level. The lower level, there were a lot less people there, and so we went out the back doors. They're sometimes closed, but all you have to do is push them open. It's not a big deal if you go back there. And you can get this great view of Manhattan while the boat is leaving. And I love this picture. I mean, the lighting was okay. It was still, it had a blue sky and so forth, and I liked the clouds. But this kind of, it's really struck me as kind of a classic landscape or cityscape. And so I decided to process it in black and white. And I really am happy with how it turned out. One, you kind of have the leading lines of the wake of the boat kind of going toward Manhattan, but also just the detail you see in the buildings and so forth, and just having the bird off on the side there. You get a little bit of the Brooklyn Bridge in the background, and it's just a real nice image. Now the other thing you'll be able to see from the Staten Island Ferry is you get a great view of the Statue of Liberty. Now again, I knew that I was going to be taking an image from kind of longer way. So here I had the 24 to 105 on my camera, and this is zoomed all the way out to 105, and it's just about the full frame. I might have cropped it a little bit to make sure that the statue was centered. But you can see that actually the boat goes pretty close to the island, and you can get just a great view of it. So I totally recommend. I mean, for a free ride, one, it's just enjoyable to go out on the river. But the other thing is that really it's a nice views along the way as well. So the other time we were wanting to try to do this would be at dusk, just because then you get the lighting and so forth. I wouldn't say that a tripod would be good in that instance. You just have to crank your ISO and hope for the best kind of thing in that kind of situation. But we didn't get a chance to. Now this image here is Grand Central Station, and this was just an amazing room. It's the main transit room there that goes off. You see the doors off on the sides, either to buy tickets or on the other side to go and on the trains and so forth that go out to New Jersey and other places. I did like this one because it was I like the colors inside. I think it's a really unique structure. And I like how some of the people were standing in place and others were busily trying to catch their train and so forth. In this one there's actually stairways on either side, so I didn't need to bring a tripod for this. I could set my camera actually on the stone rail of the stairway there. And I was able, this one I think was about, let me see, it might have been, it was a 5-second exposure. And so in this respect, I mean, you can kind of see the blur of some people, which I really wanted to capture because it's kind of an active place to be, a lot of people walking through. But I also was really glad, especially the gentleman in the middle here, just standing in one spot, because I think that was also a great thing to capture in this image, and one of the reasons I like it so much. Now another place that you really want to check out is the New York Public Library. The public library's, the building was, I believe it was constructed in the 1920s. And it's just an amazing room. Now this here is the reading room there. And I mean, you could spend hours walking through the library and taking photos and so forth. We didn't have that much time while we were there, but this was just kind of a neat place to be, and so I grabbed this exposure. If I was going to do this again, I would try to go at a time that it wasn't as crowded. The library's not open too many hours, but if you can catch it maybe early in the morning before it gets too crowded, that would probably be ideal. And this was another photo that I took also in the public library. They just had these really grand hallways, and lots of people were there taking photos of it. And so here I captured someone taking a photo with their iPhone. And it was a nice way to not only remember that the architecture of the building was incredible, but also that there were other people that greatly appreciated it as well. So anyway, yeah, that was our trip. We try to catch some Broadway shows too, which is great. You can't miss that. I mean, the food is fantastic. I mean, any kind of ethnic food you can imagine is you can find there. And so, I mean, we just had different food pretty much every meal. It was great. And the pizza is great. You know, that's what New York is famous for. It's pizza. It's street food and so forth, and those were all things that just take advantage of it while you're visiting a city like this. So thanks for joining me on this video. If you liked it, be sure to click the like button down below and subscribe if you want to see more videos of photography or technology topics. I try to post once a month or so. Thanks again for joining me. I'll see you next time.